On this episode of Connected with Kelly, we're sitting down with Justin Moore. He has a brand new album out. He also has a podcast, and he's interviewing some really big stars. We're going to talk more about that coming up. This episode of Connected with Kelly is sponsored by Pickers Vodka, proudly made in Nashville, Tennessee. So Pickers is a tribute to the musicians whose sounds fill the air in Music City. Pickers Vodka is distilled 11 times from non-GMO corn, and it's gluten-free. My new favorite is the Pickers Unplugged Vodka Soda. They're in cans. They are only 96 calories, 0 carbs, great flavors. You need to give them a try. Visit pickersvodka.com to find out more or to order online. Hey, y'all, it's Kelly. Welcome to this edition of Connected with Kelly. Justin Moore. I love this guy. He's one of my friends I've known for a long time, and he's got a lot going on. A brand new album called Straight Outta the Country, and he has his own podcast. He's getting some killer guests, in fact. Let's get connected with Justin Moore. Hi, friend. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm running and mostly behind, but I'm good.
I mean, in this day and age, that counts. You're on it. You're doing it. I like the fact that we have matching microphones, and I know that's because you do a podcast too. How's the podcast going?
It is. It's been really good. You know, it was one of those things that early on in the pandemic we started just to try to really just to have something to do for one.
Yeah.
You know, I felt lazy just sitting around the house for the first couple of months, and this was a thought bubble that we had had for a while. And you know, I always use the excuse that I didn't have the time to do it, and certainly I didn't have that excuse to use any longer. And you know, I thought, well, if this generates any income, you know, maybe it'll help me pay one guy or something, one of my employees. And you know, it cost me a lot of money initially, but now it's starting to be a little bit more lucrative for us. But you know, we've had a ton of great guests on, from sports figures to, you know, a lot of country artists and people outside of the business completely. And we actually have one of the biggest movie stars in the world coming on next week. So pretty excited about that.
Are you going to tell me who it is, or are you going to make me guess?
I had to tell you off there.
Okay. All right. And then I'll insert it after the fact, because this won't run for a while. When will it come out? When will that episode come out?
It will come out next Thursday.
You can tell me, because this won't air for at least 3 weeks. 2-3 weeks.
Oh, okay. Matthew McConaughey.
You are going to... Wait a minute. Time out. You are doing...
Oh, I have no idea.
What are you going to ask
I guess he's got a new book out. Hell, I don't know.
It's called Green Lights. I mean, I'm stalking him, so I know everything. So, okay, I want to ask you this. We've known each other for a long time. How interesting or difficult is it to interview people that you know?
I mean, it definitely is interesting. You know, I just don't go into it necessarily. I guess I kind of subconsciously do it, but I don't really, when I know people, I don't really go into it with the mindset that I'm interviewing them. You know, we kind of just have a conversation like we would backstage or on the bus or on the phone or whatever. You know, I'm probably do ask some questions, but I'd really go into that area or mindset again when I don't know somebody, you know, a little more so. If that makes sense. Yeah. Like we had Travis Tritt on a couple of weeks ago, and I had met Travis, but I didn't really know him, you know, so I was actually researching different things and you know, I had a list of things. If the conversation drug a little bit, I would insert one of those things or whatever. But he was great too. And the other thing is, all these guys that we're talking to and ladies that we're talking to, they're all pros at what they do. And so it's really easy, you know. I mean, you know, from experience, you've done it way longer than I have on that side of the mic, that a lot of it depends on who you're talking to. I mean, it
Right.
really does,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know.
Absolutely. In being in that position, is there somebody now on the wish list since just got checked off? Who else do you want to interview?
I need to get Dwight Yoakam on. You know, I've talked for
Oh,
years about him being
yes.
my favorite artist, and he's just such an interesting, different guy. And by different, I don't mean bad. He's just a different personality.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy that it's ironic, but he grew up uh, like 15 minutes from me, and my grandmother, who just passed away, like knew him because this is getting way off into the weeds, but my grandparents owned a restaurant. And when my grandmother was a teenager, she worked at that restaurant. But anyway, when they owned it, um, Billy Bob Thornton uh, came in there all the time. And if you've seen Sling Blade, his character that eats French fries and dips them in mustard, that's what he would order when he came to the restaurant, even as a kid. So, and he and I have met, and we hung out like all night one night in LA at his house. That's a whole different story. But anyway, I think he would be cool to interview because of some of that stuff. I know no one has ever asked him about, you know, because nobody
Right.
knows. So
Those are the stories that I think people love to find out about. And you're exactly right. I love to have conversations with people. I don't even call them interviews anymore because nobody wants a set of questions that, you know, you're going to check off the box. I just want to talk to you and find out what's been going on. I do want to ask about the new album. So, Straight Out of the Country. First of all, I see this, I see the artwork, and I'm like, I see you straight out of Compton. Did you listen to that album when you were like a teenager?
I mean, I've definitely heard the album. Don't get me
Right,
wrong.
right.
Um,
But it wasn't on
I
repeat.
no, but I mean, I was certainly very, very familiar with it, and I mean, I've got Easy E on my and Dre on my phone and everything still to this day. Cruising down the street in my 6'4". But anyway, yeah. No, it's funny. A couple of buddies of mine have asked me that question. Did you steal that? And I go, man, I honest to God didn't even think about it. I really didn't. It never even crossed my mind, but it makes total sense now looking at the album cover now.
Sure.
So hopefully those guys don't come after me with attorneys. Um, but anyway, no, I really never even crossed my mind. And I'll give you another funny thing that I wasn't even aware of. You know, when I didn't write Straight Out of the Country, the song, and I thought it was straight out of the country. I didn't even know it was straight out of the country. So I get I picked out the artwork and stuff, but the label does all that. And there are people at the label that put all that stuff together, and they keep saying it's outa instead of out of. And I just was like, I guess it's out of hell. I didn't even ask nobody. I just was like, I thought it was out of though. I mean, so maybe that's why I didn't even think of the Straight Out of Compton thing.
I
I don't
love it.
know.
I love it. You know what? It's fine. So, how long have you been sitting on these songs? I mean, we had this huge break and everybody was kind of just in flux and nobody was putting out music. And were these songs already in the hopper like 2019?
At least 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, which was a huge blessing because I feel like artists have gone one way or the other through this whole thing. They've either been super creative or not at all, and I kind of fall into the latter. I mean, I think I've written maybe 2 or 3 songs in the whole time we've been, at home. It's just weird to write a song over Zoom. It's just odd,
Yeah.
for me. I mean, it's great that the technology is there and we can do that, but no. So I think you and I have talked in the past. When we go in and make an album, let's say 10, 15 song album, we always cut, an additional 3 or 4 or 5 tunes, and we usually just discard the ones that don't fit maybe
Mm-hmm.
as well as the others. And most of the time you don't go back to those. You just kind of move on. and
Right.
and when we were writing for the Late Nights and Long Necks album, we just kind of got in a groove, and and golly, probably wrote and found 40 songs that we just absolutely loved. And and knew that we wanted to use all of them and not discard any of them, but we didn't really know how to go about putting them out. You put them out all at the same time, one giant album? Do you do 3 albums out of it? Or, there's so many ways to go about it now. And I think every artist and every record label, et cetera, out there right now are kind of searching for what the best way to put new music out there is, with in the industry changing from a technology standpoint, in a lack of record sale standpoint and all that. So we were going to do Late Nights and Long Necks, volume 1, 2, 3,
Right.
or what we finally, after a ton of conversations, came just to the decision to just do 3 separate albums from it. And so, all that being said, it was a huge blessing that we had this stuff ready to go, because we had already recorded it all.
Oh,
And
that's nice.
yeah,
So
I
you
mean,
didn't.
there were a few vocals that I hadn't gotten, which I just did in my pool house on this mic, actually. And so, it was a huge blessing because I was not feeling real creative. It was a huge blessing because it would have been next to impossible, if not impossible, to go into the studio with musicians and record tracks. And so, yeah, we were really lucky, actually. But, and we didn't go, I want to be careful that people know that we didn't go, all right, what's on the Late Nights and Long Necks album? Those were our favorite 10 songs. And then these are our second favorite. And the album that we have ready to go already, the next album, those
Right.
are our least favorite. It was just kind of what works together, and what makes sense for right now. And I think subconsciously, even right now, you can hear some themes in these songs that maybe I chose them for this project because of what we've all dealt with over the
Right.
last year or more.
Well, and I think it's interesting too when you're building an album. To me, and I haven't built an album yet. Just kidding. But for
We're all
me,
waiting on it.
okay, well, just keep waiting. It's gonna be a minute. But to me, it's kind of like you're making a menu for a dinner. Like you've got entrees, you've got appetizers, you've got desserts, and everything has to kind of work together in harmony, or it's not going to be what you want it to be. It's not going to be the experience that you want it to be.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, you're not gonna eat mashed potatoes with Italian food or Mexican food or whatever. So that makes sense to me. And you're exactly right. I mean, I always say it's like putting a puzzle together.
There you go.
You got to have the right pieces. And there are songs that are ready to go on the next album that maybe I like more than some on this album, but we're saving them because they all fit better together, or whatever. But I mean, we have a duet on the next album that I've been wanting to put out for like 3 years, and so it might actually be a single for us. So we'll see how that plays out. My label loves me talking about this since this album just came out. They
Right,
love me
right.
talking about the next album. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
It's hard. It's when you've got so much good stuff in the pipeline. It's like sitting on Christmas presents that you can't open. So I get it. It's rough. So let's talk about Straight Out of the Country. What was the puzzle piece that fit first? What song on here was the first one that you were like, we got to make this the anchor and build everything else around it? Was it the title track?
No, that was one of the later additions, to be honest
Okay.
with you. Again, it was a while ago, but it was one of the ones that I had to listen to a lot, and I'm like, I don't know, whatever. And then kind of fell in love with it later. But the songs we've had the longest, that we absolutely loved, were actually 2 Rhett Aiken songs. You Keep Getting Me Drunk and Hearing Things. We've had those songs on hold for maybe 5 years or some stupid. So I know the writers are going, what in God's name are they doing? Or what, it may not be 5 years, but so love those tunes. And then, To me, the anchor of this album, though, this is not the exact question you asked, but to me, the anchor of this album is We Didn't Have Much. I just think
Mm.
I just love that song so much, and I heard that song. That was probably the latest that I heard, and it was right before the pandemic hit us, and I loved it then. and and then when the pandemic hit us, it just, to me, took on a whole new meaning, just about, simplicity. And that song to me kind of talks about the beauty in that.
Yeah.
But I think that song is a really good centerpiece for this album.
It's interesting that you say simplicity. I feel like there are a lot of things that have changed personally for me in going through being in lockdown and being home and figuring out what's really important and what isn't. And there are certain things that I'm like, you know what? They're non-negotiables now. Like time with my kid, non-negotiable. If I've got stuff I've got to do with her, non-negotiable. So, what are some of the non-negotiables that changed for you? What's something that you were like, this is way more important than I've given credit for in the past?
It's funny because a few years ago, it was probably 5, 6, 7 years ago, as my oldest daughter was getting to the age where she knew when I was gone, and because it's so early in their life, they don't really know
Hmm.
what's happening. But when she got 4 or 5 years old, and she's hanging on my leg, not wanting me to go, I got to the point where I said, "Look, because you can fall into a trap as an artist, and your pay keeps going up on shows, and you go, well, I got to take this show, I got to take this show, I got to take this show." I got to the point, I said, you got to stop at some point. You got to let a show go
Hmm.
and know that there's always another one to go be played. you know Little did I know there wasn't always going to be a show to be played. But in all seriousness, and so I think I was really good about that for a long time, and then maybe I fell a little bit back into that trap,
Hmm.
of probably taking more shows than what I wanted to, or should have, or and so I think I'll get back to a point now where I'm a little more cognizant
Hmm.
of that. So
I know you always get to be the coach of some of their teams. What sports have you been coaching?
baseball and softball, basketball. No, did I say baseball and softball?
Yeah,
Basketball and softball. Sorry,
that's
baseball
okay.
not yet. That's next year. South before next year, so we'll get that going next year. But um, yeah, so basketball we had, didn't have a lot of fans in attendance because of COVID. Each player got a couple of people that got to go or whatever. But we did really well in both of those. My oldest daughter still to this day has never lost a basketball game, so she's on a really good team, and she's got a great coach.
That's what I heard.
But now, and then and then softball, we just got rolling about, I don't know, 6 weeks ago or something like that, and so it's been nice not to miss any of those games. I've actually got to miss. Um, I think I've missed one game, actually, one tournament, but my oldest is playing really really well right now. She's been taking lessons and stuff for years, and it finally, I think it's her age, but it finally clicked with her this year, and she's a little bulldog. But yeah, I'm coaching all three of their teams, all three of the girls teams. So yeah, our weeks are just
Hmm.
berserk. I mean, even with me not being gone that often, it's just crazy.
Which one are you better at coaching, basketball or softball?
Softball. It probably just because I like it more. I
Hmm.
love playing basketball, and I was a pretty decent player, but um, and I just always loved the game of baseball, and now softball more. So,
We got Mother's Day coming up. What are you going to be doing? Anything special?
well, I just got
That
I
says it
I've
all. That means
well
you haven't planned anything yet.
Oh no, I never plan anything. No, I've been getting crap from my wife, whom you know well, because last year I promised her a chicken coop and chickens, and then I just kind of tried to not follow through with it. Well, I haven't followed through with it, so I just don't want to deal with them. And we have friends that have like 90 chickens or some stupid something, and they give us all the eggs we want. So I'm like, we have fresh eggs already. So why do we want to? She just wants to deal with them. I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to be gone at some point again, and you're going to have to. So go get up at daylight, feed the chickens, water them, deal with a mean rooster trying to spur you, then go get 4 kids ready to go to school, take them to school, then go run your store. I mean, it's just too much. And so anyway, but I've been getting the guilt trip laid on me that she wants her chickens and chicken coop since I didn't give it to her last year and promised it to her. So I don't know. It's just she's a mess.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Has she ever been around a chicken coop when it smells real ripe in like the heat of August? Because that right there
Yes,
with my grandparents had
yes,
one, and that is a smell you can never
yeah.
forget.
I mean, yes, she's insane about animals. I mean, we would have anything and everything out here. I mean, it would look like a petting zoo out here if I would let her.
What do you have
It's
now?
crazy.
You've got dogs, but what
We
else?
just have 3 dogs now. I
Okay.
mean, we've had cats and they up and disappear. They just take off. I guess they're tomcats. I don't know, whatever. Um, and then we've had bunny rabbits, and we've had. I mean, we. My cousin actually, I let him keep. He's got a bunch of cows on my property and horses and all that. So it's like she gets the ambiance, and she can go ride a horse anytime she wants to. But the best kind of horse is like the best kind of boat, the one you don't own.
Mm-hmm. You like to have a friend that has a horse, not a
Exactly.
horse. That's right.
Like having a friend with a truck.
Never have enough of that. It's interesting too that everybody during this last year really started hunkering down. And I have to say how fortunate you must have been in that situation because you're so close to your parents, proximity wise. You had your bubble already kind of built in. That had to reinforce some of those things that you decided early on in your career. When you said, I'm going to live in Arkansas, I'm not going to live in Nashville, when I want to be close to my family, like all of that just came back to pay off so much even more in 2020.
Yeah, it was certainly magnified,
Yeah.
throughout this past year. And yeah, we didn't see a ton of people, especially early on, but we, obviously did see my parents and my grandparents, and just recently losing my grandma. It's just such a blessing that I was able to be around quite a bit to help her and see her and all those things throughout this year. So, but yeah, you're exactly right. It was certainly it was not that I needed anymore, but it was even more proof that I made the right decision, years ago.
What was your grandma's favorite song of yours?
She used to get mad when I would say this, and she kept she would always go. Every time I'd say it, she goes, "If you tell anybody that again, I'm gonna beat your ass." But it was "I Could Kick Your Ass." That was her favorite song. She said that every time. She would get mad if I told anybody that. She was kind of picking at me, but yet she loved that one. She also loved, my. This is the grandmother who was my grandpa that was so special to me. That was his widow, and so I was very close to both of them, and so she loved of having one so far away too because of I recorded that right around the time my grandpa had passed away, and then grandpa, she really liked grandpa as well for obvious reasons.
That's awesome. I know you did a couple shows. You did one out here not too far. I think you were at the barn, right? At the Loveless Barn.
Yeah, we did a live streaming event.
So
It
I
was
know.
great. I had laryngitis. It was awesome. It was so don't play a show in a year, and you finally get a chance to play a show, and you get laryngitis.
Man.
First time in my life.
Oh no. Well, how do you deal with that? Like, what did you do?
Well, we had to cancel the first date, and then I got a little better, but I got pumped. I got steroid shot, and I got a steroid pack on top of it that I took for 4 or 5 days, and which I may have gained a little weight during COVID, but I looked ridiculous in that because I was all, I was pumped full of steroids. So anyway, yeah, it's not fun to deal with. I can promise you.
So I had a friend that was a singer, and she swore up and down when she would get really like sore throat or something, she would eat a raw onion. Have you ever done anything ridiculous like that?
No, I've never even heard that. I mean, I thought I'd heard about everything. My longtime keyboard player, his dad had some concoction that he told us about that had like cayenne pepper in it or something. So it's like make it as hot as you can make it, like as spicy hot as you can make it, and it worked pretty well. Honey's always really good, but it gets to a certain point, like it was for me. And fortunately, knock on wood, that was really kind of a first in my career to be that bad. I mean, I wasn't audible. And it was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy. And so, but anyway, if it gets to the point where it's so bad, there's just really nothing you can do. I mean, fortunately, when you're playing a live show at an arena or something, you get that adrenaline from the crowd. You'll walk on stage not being able to speak, and then all of a sudden you can sing. It's really kind of magical, not to overstate it. But then you walk back off stage and you can't speak again. It's wild. I've dealt with that, but that's just hoarse, and you can't hit certain notes kind of deal. But the way I was a few weeks back, it was rough.
Well, you're back. You're at it. You sound great. What are the big shows? You've got some that are on the calendar. What are you looking forward to?
I mean, at this point, I'm looking forward to any show and every show. We've played a handful over the past few weeks, but I think really starting about July, our calendar looks honestly pretty normal, which is just so exciting to see. And, just to be able to go out and provide a paycheck to my employees, throughout this thing. And certainly there have been so many more people who have dealt with much worse issues than us not being able to go play music. But that being said, it's been really difficult, as for artists and bands and really our industry as a whole. I mean, all these venues I feel just awful for. It's taken a toll for sure. And so I just look forward to getting back out there. And really it's walking on stage and playing music, but just getting my life rhythm back to normal for myself and for my kids and my wife, and just getting back to you're a parent. Kids thrive in a routine, and I'm understanding of the fact that our routine is much different than most people, but it's ours and it's what we've all been used to for so long. So getting that back is what I'm most excited about.
Man, I can't wait. I'm going to catch you out on the road. I'm going to be out there. I'm fully vaccinated and ready to go.
Come on.
Man, thank you so much. It's good to see you.
Hey, thank you, and good to see you.
Justin Moore, Straight Out of the Country is the brand new album. Personally, I would say my favorite song on this album is More Than Me. Oh, it's so very sweet. Definitely take a listen to the album. Let me know your favorite Justin Moore song below in the comments. Make sure that you subscribe, you hit that bell. You will be notified first when we have new episodes coming out each and every week. Until then, make sure you're staying connected with all the people and things you love the most. Bye.